Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining the Pennsylvania Human Relations Commission today as we kick off our Women's History Month event, Human Rights Shero. Again, I am Regional Director of the Pittsburgh Regional Office, Dr. LaDawn Robinson, and welcome. We're going to begin our program with a few opening remarks from my Executive Director, Chad Dion Lassiter. Following will be the introduction of our featured speaker, Dr. Alisa Warren. Executive Director Lassiter.
Thank you so much, Regional Director Robinson. I'm so humbled and honored to be in this space. First and foremost, a happy Women's History Month to every single person here. We want to welcome all those who are part of PHRC, but also we have a lot of social justice stakeholders who are here as well. So we want to invite all of you into this virtual beloved community. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that not all masculinity is toxic. A lot of masculinity, and my masculinity, is that of truth, love, and kindness, and also just warmth. And I'm just so excited that we have Dr. Warren, who's our leader at IAOHRA. She's our president. I see we also have Executive Director Clements Boyd here and multiple others. And it was important for us this year for PHRC to have Women's History Month event that was going to highlight executive directors of these types of commissions who are doing some very, very impactful and profound work. And so we're kicking it off today with Dr. Warren, who's a big sister of mine. Really happy to have her as a thought leader, as well as all the other individuals that you'll see for this particular month. And so on behalf of our chairman, Joel Bolstein, on behalf of all of our commissioners, here to listen, here to learn, put your metaphoric seatbelts on because she's going to bring it. She's very inspiring. She's very captivating. And she, along with the current leadership of IAOHRA, has moved us to an international level. And she was just in Geneva, Switzerland some time ago. So to Dr. Warren, once again, just thank you for pouring into me at this stage of your career where it's easy for individuals who have paved the road for individuals like myself and others to just continue to do the work without recognizing that it's important to pour in and pass the social justice torch along. Back to you, Regional Director Robinson, and to all the women leaders at the PHRC, happy Women's History Month, even though it's not just a particular month, it's every single day. And we're honored to have some amazing leaders here at PHRC in our Commonwealth. Thank you.
Thank you, Executive Director. So folks, get ready to be impressed. I was very impressed and very honored to read this bio of Dr. Warren. So I'm going to ask the question, have you ever wondered how a single individual can make a significant impact on advancing human rights? Well, today we have the privilege of being in the presence of a true leader, a champion, and a shero for human rights. Dr. Alisa Warren serves as president of the International Association of Official Human Rights Agencies, IAOHRA, a professional association of state and local human rights government agencies serving nearly 250 million people. She is the executive director of the Missouri Commission on Human Rights, a state agency working to prevent and eliminate discrimination in employment, housing, and public accommodations. Dr. Warren's dedicated services manifest itself in extensive education and outreach efforts at the domestic and international levels. As an industry leader, she works to leverage strong partnerships which are key to advancing human rights. She is a subject matter expert in human rights, appearing on television, radio, and as a keynote speaker. She is a perennial university guest lecturer and conducts training for government agencies, organizations, communities, and businesses. She is a vocal champion for international human rights treaty obligations and advocated before the United Nations Human Rights Committee in Geneva, Switzerland. Dr. Warren serves on the board of directors for Focus St. Louis and the Diversity Awareness Partnership. She's appointed to the Missouri Supreme Court Commission on the Race and Ethnic Fairness in the Courts and the U.S. Equal Employment Opportunity Commission Joint Standing Committee. She received the Most Influential Business Women Award and the Women Who Dare to Dream Distinguished Humanitarian Award. Dr. Warren earned a PhD in Community Development and Social Disparities from the University of Missouri. So please join me in giving a warm welcome to the exceptional Dr. Alisa Warren.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone. I am really
Good
so
afternoon.
pleased to be here. Thank you, Dr. Robinson, for that introduction. I'm proud of the work that I do. So I tried to get her to cut it down shorter. And she said, no, I need to read all of this because you're doing a lot. So I appreciate that. And I'm really proud to be here. And I wanted just to thank all of you for being here to kick off Women's History Month. And particularly, I want to thank my brother, Executive Director Chad Lassiter, and his entire team really for inviting me here today to celebrate Women's History Month. So typically, as you know, in March for Women's History Month, we honor the achievements and the impact of women in the past, and we pay tribute to pioneers and innovators in history. And that's all great. That's wonderful. We can't learn from our past. We need to celebrate it and understand it. We should never forget our history. Now, especially though, during Women's History Month, it really should serve to motivate and mobilize everyone to celebrate and push forward the issues that relate to women and our society. So it's a moment that we can contemplate the resilient spirit of women who are influencing our world despite challenges. So Women's History Month really gives us a moment to contemplate the unwavering determination of women, despite the challenges, who have influenced our society. But let's take this opportunity today to pay tribute to today's pioneers, to today's innovators, and today's champions whose narrative will forever be woven into the tapestry of our times. So I'm kind of excited about this. And I want to take you on a journey to shine a light on the importance of some Gen Z sisters who are doing amazing, great things around the world right now, today, as we sit here. So let's celebrate today's human rights Sheroes and let them know that we see you, sis. All right, next slide. So just so you know where I'm taking you on this journey, I've listed just a few key points so that you know where we're going. This afternoon, I want to talk to you about, of course, IAOHRA, you know, as Director Lassiter knows, and of course, my Vice President, Diane Clements-Boyd, who is on this call. Thank you for joining us, Diane. I always talk about IAOHRA, and I'm going to use this opportunity to share again this amazing organization and what we do. Also, I'm going to talk a little bit about International Women's Day, which is very timely because it's tomorrow, March 8th. And so I can't let this opportunity go by without talking a little bit about what that is. Then I'll jump into human rights Sheroes, just a few. Of course, there's so many out there, but I want to focus on some Gen Z heroes, some of the newcomers in this landscape who are doing amazing things in their communities and around the world. So we'll talk about that. And then wrap it up with a little bit of discussion about awareness and global support and what that looks like. So that's where we're going today. Let's go to the next slide. So, and I'm actually, here we go. So we're on the third slide. So in case you're not familiar with the International Association of Official Human Rights Agencies, affectionately known as IAOHRA, we were established in conjunction with the Universal Declaration of Human Rights way back in 1948. So that's a long time ago. We've been around, I haven't been around that long, but the organization has been around that long. And IAOHRA is the premier human rights professional leadership organization of state and local agencies serving nearly 250 million people. And like the Universal Declaration on Human Rights, IAOHRA has been in existence, as I said, for 75 years, doing amazing work. So our agency members are statutorily charged with enforcing human rights laws, much like yourselves, probably most people on this call, and we work to prevent discrimination, bias, and hate. Our mission is to unite, to educate and to strengthen state and local government human rights agencies. So that's why opportunities like this are so important to me and our organization, because it's about uniting around issues that relate to all people and education. So this is a great opportunity. And again, I thank you for this opportunity. Again, as was mentioned in the opening, IAOHRA is a vocal champion for international human rights treaty obligations, and we have advocated before the United Nations Human Rights Committee in Geneva, Switzerland, just last fall. We're able to do that, and we're actually able to get our issues related to the need for a national human rights institute in the United States. Like the 122 other countries in the world that have an NHRI, although the United States does not. So that was the treaty obligation that we signed into over 30 years ago. However, the United States has yet to fulfill that obligation. And so that's why I went to Geneva to talk about the need for that. And we continue to push as an organization in our communities to try and work with the members, our lawmakers and members of Congress to see if there's not an opportunity for that to happen within the United States. And so there is, in fact, and I might just encourage you to go out and visit the website, which is a national campaign for, I believe it is NHRI for USA.org, and it's the word for F-O-R-E. So it's NHRI FOR USA.org. So check that out and learn more about what that's about and how you might be able to become involved. IAOHRA is a vocal member of that national campaign, and we would love to have your support and within your communities, perhaps to help move that initiative forward. So that's one of the things that IAOHRA is working on. Among other things, our member agencies are doing amazing work around this country. And I'm so, so, so proud to serve as the president of IAOHRA and work with an amazing group of people such as Director Lassiter and such as Diane Clements-Boyd and many, many others who are doing just incredible work in very difficult times. So thank you. My heart goes out to my brothers and sisters doing this work. It is truly an honor and a pleasure to serve as president of this organization. Slide 4. Let's go to the next slide. So, now that commercial is out of the way, right? Today, Women's History Month holds a profound significance that resonates more strongly than ever. We stand at a crucial juncture where accomplishments and voices of women are not only recognized, but they're actively amplified and need to be more amplified. But we have an opportunity because tomorrow, on March 8th, 2024, we celebrate International Women's Day, which will be recognized globally, celebrating social, economic, cultural, and political achievements of women around the world. So this day marks a call to action for accelerating women's equality. And it's really timely that I'm able to speak to you today because that event is happening just, a few hours from now, tomorrow, all over the world. So think about how you might jump into that in your community. So this global period is a celebration of the advancement in gender equality and an opportunity to address ongoing obligations and obstacles. There are many. I'm not trying to paint this with the rainbows and unicorns and fairy tales about a rosy world. We have a lot of work to do when it comes to gender equality, as you well know, and we're all really standing at the forefront of that fight. And so I'm very honored to work alongside you. But you may not know that International Women's Day has occurred for well over a century, 100 years, over 100 years, with the very first gathering happening in 1911, and it was supported by over 1 million people. Amazing. And today's International Women's Day celebration is celebrated by groups everywhere, all around the world. So that's happening tomorrow. Look to see what's going on in your area related to that. Next slide. So during the month of March, during Women's History Month, International Women's Day is a global day, but not only for celebrating the social, economic, and cultural and political achievements of women, but the important call for action to accelerate gender parity. And so it's more than just a celebration. It's really a call to action. How can we use our collective influence to make changes within gender parity and women's rights? So important events are happening worldwide, and groups are gathering to come together to celebrate women's achievements, to rally for women's equality. A wide range of events and campaigns and rallies, lobbying happens within governments. You'll see groups of women gathering within their legislative bodies to talk about women's issues. There are performances and festivals, even parties happening to celebrate International Women's Day, and fun runs. If you like to run and be involved in 4 5Ks or that sort of thing, I've even seen those happen before. But those types of celebrations are happening worldwide tomorrow. So again, I encourage you to check out what's happening tomorrow in your community in celebration of International Women's Day. So I do want to just point out a couple of important things that International Women's Day points out. And it really is a day to focus and look at educating and raising awareness about women's equality. And that's what we're doing here today, right? We're talking about it. We're putting our heads together and thinking about how we can make improvements within our communities and the world. It's a call for positive change, advancing women. It's also an opportunity, as I said, for lobbying to accelerate gender equity and gender parity, not only in your community, but nationwide and worldwide. And then finally, to celebrate the achievements of women, because there are many. There are many, and every day we're breaking down barriers that we didn't know we could even achieve. So those are the types of things that happen. Next slide. Okay, so as we embark on Women's History Month and International Women's Day, I not only want to celebrate the accomplishments, the resilience, and the contributions of women, but I also want to recognize the profound significance of our present day human rights sheroes, which is the title of this presentation. Our human rights sheroes, SHEROES. And that is also, with the tagline, "We see you, sis. We see what you have going on." We're talking about women who are new to this space, new to human rights, and making an impact not only in their communities, but across the world. And I want to lift up those sisters today. I want to talk about those human rights heroes and sheroes and let them know that we see you, sis. So now more than ever, Women's History Month should really serve as an inspiration. There are a lot of troubling things that are going on within our country and the world, and we should be inspired by the positive things that we have happening with our human rights sheroes. It's a time to reflect on the resolve of women who have impacted our communities, their country, and the world despite facing the obstacles. So let's seize this opportunity to honor these trailblazers, these visionaries, and the unsung sheroes whose stories enrich the fabric of our collective society. It was difficult to isolate just a few because there are so many amazing young people out there doing incredible things. But today it's evident that advocating for women's rights is not just a thing of the past. It's a current and urgent issue that requires our focus. Women worldwide are persistently overcoming obstacles and surpassing limitations and reshaping societal standards. So their impact transcends boundaries in education, in business, in politics, and our community at large. They're enhancing our shared story around the world. And I'm so proud to have this opportunity to highlight some of those amazing women. So I want to take a moment to share the stories of 8 amazing Gen Z human rights sheroes that are changing our world in impactful ways. And again, this is certainly not an all-inclusive list because there are many, but I wanted to just shine a light on a couple. So next slide. me take a little sip because there's just some incredible stories that I want to share. The first person is Kelly Robinson, and she's the 9th president of the Human Rights Campaign. She's the first Black queer woman to lead this organization. And I might add, she is also an alum of my alma mater, the University of Missouri-Columbia. So, you know, I put her first because we both went to the same university, not at the same time, but I'm really proud of this young sister who's doing amazing work in this space. The Human Rights Campaign is America's largest civil rights organization working to achieve equality and liberation for lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer people. So Kelly leads the Human Rights Campaign and its more than 3 million member advocates to fulfill its mission to realize a world that achieves fundamental fairness and equality for all people. Kelly has been at the forefront in the fight for bodily autonomy and racial gender equality, with a focus on uplifting marginalized communities and building political power. She also focuses on issues such as voting rights, reproductive rights, which, as you know, has been in the forefront recently nationwide and even in certain states. They're working hard towards those issues. Also, LGBTQ rights, living wages and healthcare, and the concerns of impoverished people. So their mission is broad and they are doing amazing work. And I just want to say, we see you, sis, and thank you for all the work that you're doing. The next person is on this same slide is really another phenomenal young woman. Her name is Lucy Edwards. She is a journalist, a content creator, and a disability educator who shares daily posts about her life as a young blind woman. She's also a BBC Radio 1's first blind DJ. Lucy lost her sight in the right eye at age 11 due to a genetic condition. And then she lost her remaining sight at age 17. So since then, she said that she missed out on cultural moments and wanted to describe the elements for other blind and visually impaired fans. So now she hosts a Eurovision Described, a show called Eurovision Described for the BBC, or the British Broadcasting Corporation. And she has a show there, and that's the very first of its kind. She has explained that ultimately, when you're blind or visually impaired, there are a lot of things online that aren't accessible to you at all. So she's taken the opportunity to describe in detail what that looks like, what that smells like, those types of things that people really don't get to understand or see online. So Lucy's well known also for her How Does a Blind Girl TikTok series. That's what it's called. How does a blind girl do this or that? It's on TikTok, and this is where she shares various ways that she navigates daily tasks, accessibility tools, in an effort to break down the stereotypes and address common misconceptions about navigating the world without sight or limited sight. She can also be found on Instagram, on Twitter, and on TikTok. And I just want to say to Lucy, we see you, sis. You are doing great work, and thank you so much for all that you do. Next slide. So this person may be recognizable to some of you. 15-year-old Yolanda Renee King has never met her famous grandfather, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., but like many of us, she has been inspired by his words and his actions. So to honor the legacy of both her grandparents, Yolanda Renee King wrote a book called We Dream a World, Carrying the Light for My Grandparents, Martin Luther King Jr. and Coretta Scott King. Yolanda wants to start a revolution around service. She believes that using our talents and strengths through service impacts our society. And service is one of the best ways to solve issues and should be taught to kids at a very young age, at an early age. In fact, service is so important to the Kings, as most of us know, that they're launching a 5-year project called Realizing the Dream that celebrates her grandfather's 100th birthday. And the goal of this project is to obtain 1 million hours of service. And as we're all aware, when we celebrate Martin Luther King Day every year in January, it's typically always revolving around service, because that's what her grandfather promoted, was serving others. Everybody can be great because everybody can serve. So, young Miss King, we see you. We see you, sis. She's doing great things. Keep your eyes out for that young lady. She's doing incredible things. The next person that I want to lift up, growing up in South Los Angeles, Edna Chavez witnessed regular gun violence in her community. A shooting right outside her home took the life of her 14-year-old brother. And she shared that this is normal, to the point that she learned to duck from bullets before she even learned how to read. Chilling, isn't it? She told the story of thousands of other people of color who are disproportionately affected by gun violence before a crowd at the March for Our Lives in Washington, D.C. Edna is a part of the Community Coalition's Youth Empowerment Through Action group, where she helps to mobilize her community on everything from immigrant rights to civic power. Ms. Chavez, we see you, sis, and thank you for all you're doing. Also, I have to just say, I had so much fun learning about some of these young women. They're just so incredible, so incredible. The next person I want to lift up is Quanah Chasing Horse, who is from the Lakota tribes and is an indigenous land protector and climate justice warrior. Quanah's deep connection to the lands and her people's way of life guides and informs everything she does and everything that she stands for. She's a passionate Indigenous sovereignty rights. She's passionate about, Indigenous sovereignty rights, as well as missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls advocacy and representation. In fact, there was a group of in civil society when I was in Geneva last fall around this very issue, missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls, a very pervasive problem that needs to be lifted up as well. And she is doing her part to do that. She believes that they shouldn't have to fight for something that should already be a number one right: to live their lives freely, to practice their culture and traditions, to eat their cultural foods, and to practice their medicines without fear of retribution. She advocates to uplift and to listen and hold space for Indigenous folks, Indigenous voices, and their perspectives. And she's doing the work, and I'm so proud to lift her up and say that we see you, sis. Continue to do this work. Continue to push. Next slide. Now, many of you have probably heard of this young woman, Malala Yousafzai. I have trouble pronouncing this. I have actually looked it up because I don't want to mispronounce the name. Yousafzai. I'm not saying that right. Yousafzai. Malala Yousafzai. She's known as the voice of Islam's next generation of moderate Muslims. She was shot by the Taliban for standing up for the education of girls, and has electrified the world with her determination, her courage in the face of ignorance and hate. Though only 16 years old, this charismatic teenager fearlessly articulates how her faith grounds her and gives her the courage to back up her views on peace and the importance of education. So during her speech at the United Nations, she said, Islam says that it is not only a child's right, not only a child's right to get an education, but it's their duty and responsibility. She also wrote a book called I Am Malala. It's a bold account of the problems faced by Pakistan's women and the rest of the world. She is also the youngest person to ever receive the Nobel Peace Prize. Her foundation, the Malala Fund, works to make the education of girls in developing countries a global priority. Malala is an inspiration to all girls all over the world, particularly for young Muslim women who see her as an example of what it means to be strong, outspoken, and an advocate while holding fast to her Islamic faith. So Malala, we see you, sis. Another person that I'm very proud to lift up is Zhou Chushun. She accused a CCTV news anchor in China of forcibly kissing and groping her inside a dressing room where she worked as an intern. She publicly accused him and later took the case to court to help push China's Me Too movement forward. And since China didn't consider sexual harassment to be a legal offense at the time, she sued for infringement of personality rights, demanding a public apology and 50,000 yen, which is approximately $7,500 in damages. She stated that if I didn't start the lawsuit myself, I might never know what kind of injustice other victims of sexual abuse have suffered. Unfortunately, the court held that the evidence submitted was not sufficient to prove sexual harassment, and the appeal could not be substantiated either. However, she told her supporters that putting up a fight against this is meaningful. It'll have a bigger impact on society, and I never regretted stepping forward and bearing all of this. I hope you all will share my belief that every effort is meaningful. And she inspired dozens of others in China to open up about their own sexual assaults. So my sister, we see you. And then finally, the last young lady on this slide. After the Flint water crisis struck Mari Kopany's Michigan hometown in Flint, she knew she wanted to be a catalyst for change. Through her Flint Kids project, then at only 15 years old, she raised over $600,000 to support children in Flint and distributed 17,000 backpacks filled with school supplies at 15 years old. Mari wrote a letter to then President Barack Obama urging him to visit Flint to survey the water crisis for himself firsthand, and even got a chance to go to Washington, D.C. and get a hug from the president at the White House. Eventually, President Obama approved $100 million in relief for the city. So this human rights shero, and you can see it on her shirt, is on duty, and she is determined to find ways to support Flint and other communities facing water toxicity, which is prevalent around many marginalized communities. So Mari, we see you, my sister. Next slide. So, hydration moment. These amazing, amazing human rights sheroes serve as a reminder that narratives of women, whether they are renowned figures or unsung heroes, influence our collective history and we all share around the world. It highlights the importance of raising awareness and understanding these global narratives, emphasizing that it's not just about equality, but about crucial steps towards advancement. We cannot have a free and equal society until everyone is free, until everyone is equal. Women's rights are human rights. Today, We should acknowledge that supporting women's rights is not only a matter of the past, but it's also a pressing and immediate concern that demands our attention in the future. Upholding the rights of women worldwide paves the path for progress for all people. Globally, women continue to push boundaries, to conquer hurdles, and to define societal norms, leaving an enduring impact that transcends geographical, professional, and educational boundaries, enriching all for all of us, all of our lives. So according to the United Nations, gender equality and empowering women and girls is not just a goal in themselves, but also key to sustainable development, economic growth, and peace and security. Research confirms that supporting and valuing women's rights leads to societal improvement for all. Women's rights are, I'm sorry? Women's rights really, they are human rights. And you'll hear me repeat that repeatedly. So next slide. Tomorrow, during the International Women's Day and throughout Women's History Month, it's crucial to acknowledge not just women's achievements, but also creating an environment where our full potential can shine and our voices are heard. So let this month serve as a spark for discussion, for action, and for a dedication to building a world where every woman can freely chase her aspirations without barriers or bias. During Women's History Month, we honor not only the past, but we also honor the present and the future. So let this month stand as a tribute to the strength and resilience and unwavering spirit of women around the world. Like the human rights Sheroes that we celebrated and discussed today, let it motivate us all to work together towards a world where equality is not just an aspiration, but a tangible truth, so that we can all lift up our sisters and say, we see you, sis, and we support the work that you're doing. And I want to thank you for your time and attention this afternoon as we talk about these amazing young people and about the opportunities that we have to together collectively move the needle towards a freer and equal society for all people and for women in particular. So I think we may have a little time for questions. I do have our contact information up on the screen for IAOHRA. You can go out and visit our website. You can shoot us an email if you would like to talk about anything in particular. And I would also encourage you to follow us on Facebook and on LinkedIn. I think Chad and I, Director Lassiter, excuse me, we are very prolific LinkedIn we are talking to each other all the time on LinkedIn. So don't think I'm just saying this, but we definitely are following each other. And PHRC is just really doing an incredible job all over your state and really the nation and the world, I might add. I know Director Lassiter is doing some international work himself, which I'm really excited and proud to learn more about. But follow us on social media and connect with us and share what you're doing in your community, because we would like to amplify those efforts to our members and around the world, what we're doing within the United States and beyond. Are there any questions? We have a few more minutes.
Well, Dr. Warren, I would like to first say thank you for that great informative presentation, and give you a little bit of time to hydrate and get your breath before we open the floor to questions. But for me, some takeaways, it was nice to hear that, we can always celebrate, the women's achievements and the resilience in March, but it, also it's a call to action, a call for us to make changes and embrace that equality. When you said we see you, sis, I have a circle of friends that, you know, we will always encourage each other, and we will come like, I see you, sis. I
Yes.
see you, you know, so I was very happy. It's like, okay, so it goes outside my little circle
Yes.
of
Yes.
saying that. So thank you for sharing that. And also for lifting up those 8 young ladies, those 8 sisters, and sharing their stories. A couple of them I was familiar with, but others I was not aware. So thank you for sharing their stories with us and reminding us that women's rights are human rights, and it demands the attention now and in the future. So again, very informative presentation. I know we're going to open up the floor for questions. So I see people have hands up. Let me see what's going on. Okay. I can't see people's names very well on my screen. Someone has their hand up, so they can please speak.
Well, I have my hand up,
Clemens,
Diane Clements Boyd.
Yes, thank you.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. And I just wanted to be on today just to support Dr. Warren. She and I work together so closely in IAOHRA, and she is like a sis to me, without a doubt. And I'm so proud of her and the work that she's doing on behalf of IAOHRA. And the presentation was wonderful. Really, really enjoyed it. So really not a question, just want to say, hey, I see you, sis. You did that. And congratulations.
Thank you so much. And to Director Robinson's point too, that's just a term within my circle too. When I say I see you, sis, not that I just physically can see you with my eyes and know that you're there in front of me, but I understand you. I see what you're doing and I support you. And I want to help move you forward and lift you up. So it's just beyond, it's broader than just those words, but I'm really there to lift you up and put you on my shoulders and get you over that wall. It's because you get over that wall, we all get over that wall together, right? So it was, that was why that message really resonated with me too, because these young sisters are just incredible, doing work at a very, very young age when other young people they would maybe not be thinking about anything but themselves. These young people are thinking about how they can lift up others, and particularly other women and causes that are related to their community. So I'm just so proud of these young people. And I never met not one of them, but I would love to at one day in my life, and maybe we can invite some of them to an IAOHRA conference coming up this summer. We don't have the date yet, but Director Lassiter, you'll be the first to know, right, when we get that done. And we are planning on having our conference this summer. And we're firming that up now. So stay tuned for more information about our conference and other items of interest.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Any other questions? No other questions from anyone?
Just a comment. I'll jump in before our chairman. Knew about just one of the persons, didn't know about any of the others, and so was just very pleased to be in this space, to be educated. And when we look at the Pennsylvania Human Relations Commission and other entities, being able to not just hold space, but to be in spaces with so many brilliant individuals, but more importantly, women, we learn every single day. And we're looking at greater processes of diversity and things of that nature. And so looking at the leadership of IAOHRA, looking at the leadership of our senior management team at the PHRC, looking at multiple other levels of leadership on a macro level, my sincere and solemn prayers that we can get to a point where we're not saying, oh, it's the first, right? So our democracy still has not had a woman president. We see a lot of things changing in our sports community, where, you have the young lady at LSU. Yeah, you have the young lady at LSU. You have the other young lady at Iowa, Caitlin Clark. And you also have Dawn Staley, who for me coming out of
love her.
Philadelphia. I would have wished that she was the head coach of the Philadelphia Sixers, but I'm okay
I
with
love her.
I'm okay
I
with Nick
love-
Nurse right now. But I just wanted to say thank you for the presentation. And you know, we should be looking at Sheroes every day. You know, we just finished Black History Month, and we know about Ella Baker, and we know about Fannie Lou Hamer, we know about Ida B. Wells, and we know about others. But there was a young woman who didn't give up her seat before Rosa Parks.
Yes.
That young lady, though, was kind of frowned upon because she was a young person who was pregnant at the time. But she was the person that opposed the systemic and structural racism of the bus boycott well before Rosa Parks, and that doesn't dismiss Rosa Parks. It's just very important in this space that we know that on all sides of the color line and gender line, how people express their gender identity, that strong women continue to come. The last thing I'll say is I was always reminded of a quote from Valerie Jarrett. They would have senior management meetings or cabinet meetings, and Joel would say something, I would say something. But prior to that, Dr. Warren would have said something, and Dr. Robinson would say something, and then Chairman Bolstein and I would say something, and then President Obama would say, yeah, it's just like, you know, Joel and Chad said. And Valerie Jarrett would say, Mr. President, 15 minutes ago, Dr. Warren said that. And then 25 minutes before Dr. Warren, Dr. Robinson said that. And so holding space in those particular settings to be mindful of the voices of all people. But we do know that there is something called male privilege. And that doesn't mean white privilege, white male privilege, or black male privilege. I benefit from levels of privilege and being aware of that and holding space. Don't have to be a black male feminist. Don't have to be this or that. Just holding space for the brilliance of women and others. And so, you know, I like this presentation. I'm excited, but I'm excited every single day when I look to the left and I look to the right, and I have a Heather Roth, I have a Meredith Millard, you know, I have a LaDawn Robinson, I have a Cheryl Meck, I have a Desiree Chang, I have a Brittany Millinger, Milla, Ashley Wykowiak, and our chairman. We serve with a woman who's been on our commission for 45 years. Dr. Raquel Yanks, my very own mother, Lauren Damon. You know, you shouldn't call names because then you'll start forgetting others, but all of the women, whether they're in leadership at PHRC, from clerical to volunteers to everyone, it's an agency, not dismissing those of us who identify as male, not dismissing us at all. But in this Women's History Month event, I'm just excited about the possibilities of further events, and excited to have you here, excited to have Diane here. And man, I can go on about just the beauty of diversity that I see. And so once again, just thank you. I think Director Damon and others had questions. I didn't want to belabor this. I know our chairman has something, but thank you for all that you do and the example that you show. And thank you for all of the women leaders at PHRC, whether you're on the macro, meso, or micro level. It all makes this social justice engine work.
May I respond to Director Lassiter's comments just quickly? I appreciate your lifting that up, because the whole notion of being not heard in the boardroom has been reality for me for decades. You know, I've been in leadership roles for decades in this space, and it happened then, and it still happens, and it's frustrating. It's so frustrating. So when we have allies like you who are out here, you know, using the privilege that you have inherently as a male to say, hey, you know, Director Robinson had a point, you know, 25 minutes ago, we need to listen to her. That really helps to move the needle in a positive way. And I appreciate men like you who get it, who understand that. And then the last thing I have to say, because I had to cut my presentation short, I started to go down the sports rabbit hole. I had some athletes, and I'm a Dawn Staley fan. I just am. She is just the best sister. I love her. And but I had some athletes in here, and I had to cut it because I thought I can't go on for, you know, I could go on forever talking about amazing women. So I stopped, and I didn't include some of those athletes that are just amazing. I'm a basketball mom, right? So, you know, you sit in these arenas with these amazing young women athletes, and the arena's empty. But you have like the Dons, you know, South Carolina, that arena's rocking. In Iowa, that arena's packed with Caitlin Clark is breaking records that men set 50 years ago. So, that's a whole nother, I need to come back and talk about women in athletics, because we are breaking barriers every single day. And I'm really just proud. I'm proud. And this is my last mom moment. And you know me, Chad. So I've got a daughter. My youngest daughter is an engineer, and she's a pilot. And she is studying aviation now, and she's flying right now, and she's finishing up her collegiate education and going on to work in industry in Chicago. But when I was growing up, I never even imagined that I could be a pilot. Never even occurred to me that that was possible. And there are only 5% of women who are pilots, and even less, like less than 1% are African American pilots. And less than that, my daughter is non-binary, gay female. And so there's probably even a semi-fraction of women like her in this space. And I'm just proud. I'm so proud of the barriers that these young women are breaking every single day that I couldn't even conceive of. So anyway, I just had to say, and thank you, Chad, for your insights in this invitation. And we could talk all day probably about this, but I'm just proud of the work that we're accomplishing. And I'll be quiet now and let, I think it was your chair that wanted to close us out, maybe.
Yeah, I want to thank you, Dr. Warren. I love hearing the lunch and learns. I love sitting in on them. I thank the chairman and our senior staff for putting these together. I can tell you, I've been a practicing attorney now for 37 years, and it's hard for me to even throw that number out there.
It goes fast, doesn't it?
But the profession has changed in a lot of ways that didn't exist when I first got started. And I've always worked in some very big law firms. There weren't a lot of women partners when they were recruiting at schools. You'd find a lot of the first year classes were still mostly male. When my father was in law school at NYU, it was an all male school. Okay. When he went to Franklin and Marshall, it was an all male school, if you can believe that. A lot has changed. With our executive director talking about basketball, one of my first cousin is the president and CEO of the Las Vegas Aces. Oh. So I talked to him a lot about the WNBA, and yes, there's a couple of things to point out. One is that arena is never empty. Okay, they got 10,000 seats. They fill it all the time. But the big issue, and this is a big issue for society as a whole, not just for sports, is equal pay. Yeah. So like the entire payroll of that team, which is a championship team, is like less than $2 million for the whole team. Okay. Where you can find the last guy sitting on the bench for the Sixers, who almost never gets in a game, is probably making more money than that. Yeah. I think for PHRC, if there was one issue I would want to focus on, in addition to diversity, is equal pay, and finding complaints. We have had some over the years, but we need more where we can show that a woman doing the same work as a man is paid less, and that's illegal. Okay, that's discriminatory. So there's still more to do, but I think if you look at our senior staff, we have incredible women who are working at PHRC, working very hard. And I salute everybody during Women's History Month. I have some very strong women that I've learned from over the years, in addition to my mom, who taught kindergarten for 35 years. And the first managing partner at the law firm that I first worked for was a woman named Carla Hills. People may not know that name, but she was U.S. Trade Representative for the U.S. She was the Secretary of Housing and Urban Development. Just an incredible woman, was one of the first women who was admitted to Stanford Law School. So we all need to find women role models. I've had some great ones. And I think every person who's working at PHRC is a great role model. And again, I'm very, very happy that we're putting on these programs, and I learn a lot each and every time. So thanks to everybody who helped put the program together. And thank you, Dr. Warren, and for everything that you do at IAOHRA. I mean, we are big fans of IAOHRA. We learn a lot from IAOHRA. They're a great teammate of ours. And, we strive to be the premier civil rights agency in the US. And maybe someday you can tell us if we are.
I'm a big
I don't
fan.
want you to pick
I'm
any
definitely a
favorite.
big fan.
I don't want you to pick any favorites, but we think we're doing incredible work under our leader, our executive director, and all the people he's surrounded himself with at PHRC.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I'm constantly pushing out the work that PHRC is doing through the IAOHRA LinkedIn page, because there's so much great stuff that you're doing that I'm sharing it constantly. I'm not blowing smoke. This is, Chad can tell you, I'm constantly sharing it because you do great work. And so I'm a fan, and I will lift up all that you do in your community, because you're a great example to other agencies and other organizations around the country on how to get this work done, how to meet people where they are in the community. You do a great job with that. Oh, I see people were asking, oh, good. You've got our Facebook and our LinkedIn connection there. Please do follow us on Facebook, connect with us on LinkedIn. We'd love to have you join us, and stay tuned for when our conference is coming up in August. I can't give the details yet. It's still kind of top secret, but it's coming. You will know.
Great. Thank you. I know we're going over a little bit. I believe there's 2 more questions.
Oh, okay.
Is that okay? I believe,
Sure.
okay. Director Damon, I know you had your hand up.
Yes. So I just wanted to thank you, Dr. Warren, for being here. I met you at the IAOHRA conference last year, so
Yeah.
definitely appreciate you being here with us. Secondly, what is your recommendation to keep the motivation, encouragement going between women of different generations, especially in the working place? Just women of different generations, colors. How do you keep that motivation going?
Well, and I do think, there are formal ways that you can do that through mentoring and that sort of thing, but also informal ways to reach out and connect on those multi-generational opportunities. We have interns that work for us that I'm constantly that worked for us, 10 years ago. I'm still reaching out to them and, hey, what are you doing? Oh, you're a judge now. This is great. Or you're an attorney now. And an opportunity to stay connected and to maybe find even that one person that you want to emulate and work together to try and lift up what they're doing and lift each other up. I tend to have what I call, almost my personal board of directors, if you will, that these are women who are doing things that I want to learn from, and that I also want, and they also want to learn from me in different spaces. And so we're able to kind of raise the water level of each other just by that ongoing support, and being able to support each other's work. Educating ourselves on issues. The fact that some of these folks that I talked about today are new, and maybe let's learn more about what they're doing and how we might be able to emulate some of those things within our own community that could help everywhere. So hopefully that's, and I remember you too. It's good to see you again. From last
Thank you very
year
much.
in Bethesda. Yeah.
Thank you. Yes, you did answer. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
R.D. Robinson, we have a Gina who's been patient.
Yes.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you so much. This was great. So I wanted to ask a question. As I was going through employment opportunities through the website of PA.gov, and I put in bilingual, and only two employments popped up for bilingual. And I know there's a great need for people that speak Spanish within the state. That to me, I was like, dumbfounded. I was like, what is going on here? Because
Mhm.
I work in reentry. So I visit prisons, and in prisons alone, there isn't almost anyone in there that can speak to to that Latino population community. So when they are faced with that frustration that they don't have counselors or someone that can understand them or that understands the culture sensitivity, the frustration gets higher and it gets worse for the guards because there's turbulence. So when I look that up and then there I see two postings, I'm like, what's going on here?
Right, that's all, right? I know whenever we have a position open, that's one of the first things that I've been working on this for years. It's been a heavy lift to get people to understand how critical it is to have the ability, and I'm in the Midwest, so sometimes that's a little harder for us, but I still think we need to ask and be looking for people with those skill sets, because you're absolutely right. To be able to communicate with individuals in their first language is absolutely critical and able to fulfill our mission. So there's a lot of work to do in that space. So I commend you for the work that you do and continue to bring it up and raise awareness, because sometimes people just don't know, but they should know.
Yes, thank you
Yeah,
so much. I just wanted to bring that up because
no,
it's very important, especially
Yeah.
culturally. Nobody wants to speak to a
Yeah,
tablet.
absolutely.
yeah, no, I would end by saying thank you for bringing it up. I think that we have to be uh, uh, intentional with our efforts, right? I think you're absolutely right. I think that as we see the demographic shifts of Hazleton, Lancaster, Allentown, Reading, and various other places, they're increasingly becoming brown. And so we need to make sure that we're holding space where we're recruiting. There is a governor's, I would say for you, there is a governor's advisory commission for Latino affairs. Reach out to them. I would put that, what you just put here in this space, to them so that they are fully aware of some of the data trends. And then there's an awesome colleague of ours in the Commonwealth that Director Damon can follow up with you on. Her name is Doris Mayhew. She is in charge of talent requisition. And so I think that there's always, and you didn't critique us, but I think that it's always appropriate to provide critiques with forthcoming recommendations, because it is, from a strengths-based perspective, very advantageous to have a person that is bilingual, having a person that's in multiple different spaces. So I would follow up with Director Damon. I think that we could do a better job across the board. In our Philadelphia regional office, and I know you weren't talking about PHRC, in our Philadelphia regional office, we have 2 Latino women who are in leadership. However, there are other agencies, and I'm not touting us. I'm just simply saying we're being as we become. But I think that Commonwealth-wide, we have to get fully on board with the fact that demographic shifts are going to be something that we're not going to be able to turn back and go back to where we used to be. It's going to be increasingly needing bilingual and multilingual in classrooms, in community services, in positions of leadership. So thank you, Gina, for bringing that to our attention, and especially what former Secretary of Corrections John Wetzel tried to do in corrections by making it more inclusive. Still a lot of work to go and a lot of work to do. So once again, we want to thank everyone for being here. Director Damon, if you can put my email address in the chat for Gina. Gina, follow up with me. It's good to
Yes,
see
I will.
everyone here. And once
Yes, I
again,
will.
thank you, Dr. Warren.
Thank you so
Thank you,
much.
Dr.
It's been a
Warren.
pleasure. Have a wonderful day.
All right.
Thank you.
I see you,
Have a
sis.
good day.
Everyone.
Amazing.
All right.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
Yeah, I
I will
see you,
email
sis.
David.
I see you, sis.